And we're not good at risk taking. Like that just feels too big. And entrepreneurship, as you well know, it's a risk and you have to be ready to fail. And
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Highlight Her. Before we get into the episode, I invite you to hit the follow button. It helps the show get delivered into your feed, and it's a free way to support the podcast. Today's featured guest is Mattie Cummins from Phoenix, Arizona, in the United States. I met Mattie online years ago, and I love her perspective on helping our brains cut through the mental overload that haunts us. I'm really excited to learn more about her journey and her hopes for the future. Let's get started and add her to the circle of season 2. Hi, Mattie.
hey, Jenny,
Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm very excited to be here and just honored that you would invite me on. I'm excited for this conversation after all of our years of connecting on social media.
Yes, it's super fun to see you on Zoom. I know it's still not the same, but it's
Yeah,
awfully close to a
it's
coffee shop.
much closer.
Yeah, so I have two questions that I like to start with before we get into your actual journey. The
Yeah.
first one is, what do you think is your superpower as an entrepreneur?
That's a really good question. I think my superpower as an entrepreneur is the ability to move quickly. I've discovered in my adult life after being a brain expert that I actually have ADHD. That is my superpower. I figured out how to be in businesses that will allow me to maneuver in a very fast-paced way. And so if I'm able to see something coming at me, then I'm pretty quick about maneuvering and so that we soften the blow of whatever that is as a business and can carry on and do even better things.
I love that. And then my second question that I like to start with is, have you recently had a moment where you thought, this is why I do this?
Lots of moments after working in the corporate nonprofit world for a long time. I had my son. I did not want to work a 9 to 5 anymore, or really in that world we were working 15, 60 hours a week,
Mm.
and I wanted to be home. And so now my son is 16. As he's getting ready to launch into the world, I'm able to set my own hours and do things while he's at school so that we spend some really quality time. And that is one of the reasons why it's like, this is why I do this. I think the second thing is that watching our clients on their journeys is just
Mm.
so powerful. And it's a reminder that even as an entrepreneur, there are days that you don't know that you're going to be able to walk out the door at any given time during the day because you have so much to do. You see these journeys of these amazing women, and it just makes it so worth it because you can put some really goodness out in that world.
That makes me smile really big. Just thinking of all that influence that you have. Is it you by yourself, or it sounds like maybe you have a team?
Yeah, we have a couple of different coaching platforms that we use, but I have a team of people that contract with me. And the other thing I love about what I do is I've been able to not only design a life that I love, but I've been able to give other women the opportunity to do that as well. And that is really beautiful because then they just feed into our clients their own safety and their own happiness. And it's quite lovely.
I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
16 people on your
16.
team?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Do they all work in the same office with you, or is it virtual and you have team members around the country and around the globe?
So at the moment, most of our folks are in Arizona, but they do virtual and in person as well. And so we have an office for, a couple days a week. And then the rest of the time I work from home in my own space and what I need. But they also do all the virtual services as well. So they're able to do things at their house. They're able to do it in person. I think it's the best case scenario because most of us feed off of connection with others. So to have
Mhm.
that virtual, but then in person is really helpful. And then we're able to gather in person a couple days a week. And so that's always a lot of fun to get these women in one space. They're just very joy filled.
I like that. So take us back to the beginning when
Yeah.
you've already kind of mentioned wanting to branch off on your own. Take us back to the beginning. Were you mostly excited? Were you scared? What were your first steps? Anything you want to share with the audience?
I was terrified. I was terrified. So I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, my story really began in COVID. And I was working nonprofits for 20 years and my son was young. And, like I mentioned, I was working 50, 60 hours a week because that's the expectation that you will just give up your entire life for whatever job. That's the way I was raised. And then I started doing some independent contracting, but still working for some people just to kind of get my foot out of the nonprofit world and start doing counseling and coaching at my background is social work. And COVID hit. And so here I have a fifth grader who is at home every single day and can't stay home by himself. I was being forced by a corporation to go into the office 3 days a week because they weren't willing to consider doing virtual. And I just kind of sat there and was like, why am I working for people that don't care about my life?
Mm.
Why am I working for people doing something I know I can do and putting money in other people's pocket? Why am I not working for myself so I can genuinely love life and not kill myself for a job? So I was terrified. Like it was terrifying for me to cut those ties. But I knew if I didn't do it, that I would regret it the rest of my life. And I knew that I would regret the time I was missing with my son. And it goes so quickly. So I just jumped ship and it was hard and it was terrifying. And there were moments that, I mean, there were, and my son will tell you, like there were days, there was like 6 months where I was working 16-hour days.
Hmm.
But it pays off. And I think if we can get through the fear as women, the thing I think that's really difficult about women being entrepreneurs is that we're caregivers
Yes.
and that's how we're raised. And so we feel very guilty for doing anything for ourselves. And we're not good at risk taking. Like that just feels too big. And entrepreneurship, as you well know, it's a risk and you have to be ready to fail and you have to be ready to it not work. So I think that the need for me to have a life that I really loved was greater than the fear. And so I finally
Mm.
just jumped out and did it. So
I love that. Did you wait for certain things to be in place, like a certain amount of nest egg, so to speak?
I continued to contract with other people. So it's a good question. I started Cerebrations in 2021 and I continued to contract with other people till probably 2023. So some of that was loyalty because people I worked for had really believed in me and set me up to be able to start Cerebrations. But yeah, so I continued to contract other people. And then I waited until I had about 6 months of spending. So I knew if I jumped off, that I had a little nest egg there to help me get through.
Really smart.
Yeah.
So, how did you come up with the name Cerebrations?
So cerebrations is actually the verb for the cerebellum, and it means to think. So it's an actual word
Mm,
that most people
I
aren't
did not know
aware.
that.
Yeah, I know. And so it's yeah, so it's the verb to, and it means to think. And so I'm a brain expert. I have worked within the brain world for my entire career and really love the process of helping people understand how they are not thinking about what they're doing, that it's just a reaction and it's part of our past and it's part of our brain neurons as they connect. So when I came up with cerebrations, that was the word that came to mind. And I love the word because it's also a play on the celebration word too. So
That's what I thought
it,
it was.
yeah, yeah. So it's really a word about celebrating who we are, but being able to think about who we want to be in the process.
And then how long was it? You mentioned you still contracted for a couple years. How long was it before you started building a team?
I started with myself and I added two contractors about a year and a half later. And one of my contractors who's still with me is a trauma coach. And so it was a really good combination because I work
Mm,
with women on their self confidence and understanding where they are in their journey and the anxiety piece and the worry and all those things. And then she works on why that's happening and how we both work to retrain the brain to not have those reactions. So it was about a year and a half when I started with the contractors. Over time, we added some different programs as well. And so I just, every time I added a program, then I added someone that I had known in the past. So most of my contractors I'd worked with in the past. So it's been a really beautiful experience for us to work for ourselves. We used to sit around and dream about like if we owned our own
right.
business, this is what it would be like. And so I added them as services got added and clients got added, then I added other contractors as well.
That makes me happy to see your early day networking and regular connections bringing fruit later for your own business.
Yeah, I think that that's something I always think is really important for women. And I think this is what's good about women is that we really rooted in relationships. And so to be able to work with a group of women that I know take care of themselves and take care of the company and take care of our clients, like it all just kind of goes together. And to be able to look at your experiences in the past and your relationships in the past and bring those into your business, I think is a really stellar way to begin to think about how do I make this business and make it strong for the future.
In your bio, you mentioned that you help people with anxiety,
Mhm.
chronic pain, neurodiversity, and transitions in life. Do those different areas have things in common, do you think?
It's a good question. The commonality is that our executive function, and I know you know what that word is, but for people that don't, that's the CEO of the brain. It's the center of the brain that makes all the pieces work together. And when we have neurodiversity, when we have anxiety, when we have life stressors, when things get challenging and changing. I mean, I'm in this period of my life where, I'm 55, so I'm going through a whole other different transition. It impacts how our executive function works. And so what we really work at Cerebrations is helping people get that executive function to its fullest capacity so that you can problem solve. So you can figure out, like, this is where I am and this is not where I want to be. So what steps do I need to take? And so that executive function and the emotional regulation that's important for the executive function is what really is a commonality among those groups.
Did you come to those categories, so to speak, through clients coming to you and you just found that you had a lot of these types of clients? Or did you think, oh, I really like working with this particular set of challenges. This is what I'm going to focus on?
It was the second. So that's my background. I started working with people with differing disabilities right out of my bachelor's degree in social work. And so I've been working in that world for a very long time. When I went out on my own, what my goal was initially was to get my counselor and independent counseling license. As a counselor and a coach, you tend to start attracting a certain clientele because that's just what you're really good at. And a lot of it's what we speak to ourselves, right? And so through that counseling experience, I started counseling women about my own age or a little bit younger or a little bit older who have anxiety and don't understand what it is. They just know that they can't rest and they can't think. And one of the things I found is that after a certain period of time, our brains are just kind of done. Like they just used up all the energy to be able to manage that. So that was my second part of my career. And so when I started Cerebrations, it was like, what do I want to do? What groups do I work with that feed my energy? And so I was able to go back to my history and pull out these groups of people that I know I love working with, but I also really get a lot of good energy from working with them as well.
That's so fun that you get to choose something that feeds you, right?
Yes.
For example,
Yes.
I love my podcast interviews. I'm always energized by talking with other people. And so it sounds like helping these particular clients is what energizes you. And I love that you
Yes.
can build your business around that.
And I think that's what we need to do when we build a business. Is we just started actually one of the courses we're about to run or programs we're about to run is a small business incubator for women with disabilities. Because
Ooh.
it's just a hard life to try to figure out how to go work for someone. But we were just recording that information today, and that's one of the things it's super important for energy. Exactly what you're talking about, that you don't work with people that drain you. There is someone that can work with them that feeds their energy. Like there's always matches. But what I think a lot of women do is we just want to get the money in the door. So we start just working with everybody. And sometimes you have to do that because you have to pay your bills. And I totally get that. But I think having in mind, like, this is exactly who I want to work with, especially as coaches or as educators or trainers, it really then helps you stay true to not only the services you want to provide, but your own energy and what you can output. I do this business so I can have a life, want to be able to have that life. And if I use every bit of energy I have during the day, I don't have the energy I need to go home and be with my family.
Exactly. And I also noticed that you pointed out that just because someone drains your energy doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that
No.
there's someone else that is a better match.
Yep.
We don't all have the same work styles.
No, it doesn't mean they're bad at all. I mean, at all. It just means that is not my skill set and that's not my talent. I feel like we all have inherent talents that we have. And what I love about the community that I've built is that I know people that they can go work with, and I love that. So that is where their talent is, and that was where their energy is. And so there's someone out there for everyone. You just don't have to be that someone for everyone.
I like that.
Mhm.
And as we're talking about these things, my sister and I were talking about, the 80s, 70s was a completely different time for
Uh-huh.
parenting and growing up. I wonder if you run into a lot of women. You mentioned you're 55, I'm 53. So we both grew up in the 70s and the 80s. Every generation learns something new.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you run into a lot of that, having to help people retrain themselves.
Really important point. So, I think this is part of the education piece that is difficult because I don't talk about anxiety. I talk about the what it looks like in their life, and it's overwhelm and feeling exhausted all the time. And because most women don't know they have anxiety because that's all they know. That's all they understand. And so I have to talk about it differently. But one of the things that we talk about is that this is trained. And there are some medical anxieties that is about chemical dependency, like all these other things. But most of the women who have anxiety, it has been trained in them usually from their own mothers.
Mhm.
And we also then pass that down to our children when we don't know what's happening. The story I use as my own example is I'm a brain person. I've been a brain person forever. We all make mistakes as parents. We laugh because my kid's been in therapy since he's 7 because I'm going to do the best I can. That's all I've got available. Go talk to your therapist. They'll fix everything. But he was about 4 and we never used the word bad in my household. We never yelled in my household. Like me and my husband both, none of us, like we so careful about things. But when he was 4, he started hiding under the desk when he would get in trouble and start talking about he was a bad kid and he was stupid. I mean, he's 4. And I had to stop and go, where is this coming from? Well, it was
Mhm.
coming from me and my control that I have when I have anxiety. And so that looks like me, not allowing him to do things, not allowing him to have emotions because they make me feel uncomfortable because of my own anxiety, like all of these things. And so what I tell that story to women, it's like you start looking at your own life and how your anxiety shows up and you don't even know it. That is an old neuron. So, it's where the brain comes into play. That neuron was connected to help keep us safe when we were kids because our parents were baby boomer parents and this is what they did. So we start breaking down that neuron and building new neurons so they don't feel like they have to have that level of coping mechanism anymore, which is anxiety. I think the really important thing people know is that anxiety was created in our brains to keep us safe. I mean, our brains, when we have anxiety, our bodies and our brains think we're in danger. So it's a protection and it's a good protection. And it protected us as kids when, you think about it, we were out in the middle of nowhere with
Mhm.
just crazy things that we would do. Right. And so it really was helping us protect us from all the chaos that was in our lives. So it's really, I think that education is really important because the other thing that women tend to do is they tend to shame themselves. Like, I shouldn't do these things. I shouldn't think these things. I shouldn't feel this way. So we really work at one, educating and then breaking down those neurons and then reconnecting them so that your brain can live a different way and can be a different way.
Is that one of your favorite parts of your job?
I love it. It's great. It's so what I love it, the things I look for in my clients are a couple of things. One, when they come to me and say, I gave myself grace, that
Mm.
is like the most beautiful thing ever because I think we really beat ourselves up. We say things to ourselves we would never say to a friend. And so when we can get that neuron reconnected where they can start giving themselves grace. The second thing I always tell my clients that I love is when they say, I think I don't need you anymore. That is the most beautiful thing ever because my job is to help you do these things on your own and reconnect those neurons. And it's a beautiful journey and it's a privilege. It really is for me to walk that journey with women.
Do you find that you get a lot of referrals?
Yeah, so I get a lot of my referrals come word of mouth, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I've got a network coming the word of mouth. And then it's interesting. We were trying some new marketing things this year and what I think is interesting about marketing, and this is really hard, I think, I don't know about men, but women, I think small business owners, spending money on something you don't know if it's going to work or not is
Mhm.
really hard. Trying to build my email list. And so we ran an ad around a free download for boundaries.
Mhm.
That thing took off. Like, I was shocked. Within 4 months, I had 5,000 emails. I've never in my life had that many because women know they don't have boundaries. They don't know what it means. And so that's another place that I've been getting a lot of clients is around this process of them understanding, oh, to feel better. Because sometimes I think anxiety is hard to talk about. But when you talk about things like boundaries, women go, oh yeah, I don't have that. And so that's an actionable item. So we've been getting a lot of referrals and clients through that process of understanding what boundaries are and how do you get those boundaries so you feel better.
And that's still on your website, right? The free
Yeah, yeah,
download?
yeah. The download, it's actually there's a boundary script. It's pretty easy, and so it just gives women, and I think that's what's been so powerful about it is it goes through several scenarios, and it gives you the word say to people to build a boundary, to be able to say, no, I can't do that now, but I'll do that later. Because what I think people think about boundaries is that it's cruel or it's mean, and they're not. The thing about boundaries that's remarkable is that they actually improve your relationships when you can put them into place. It's painful in the beginning, it really is, but it's not cruel. It's actually kind to put boundaries into place so that you have a better relationship with people.
So if people wanted to find that for themselves that are listening, where can they find that?
You go directly to MattieCummins.com, and there's a section for you to download the boundary script. And it walks you through, like I said, family, workplace, through several boundaries, and gives you some scripts to say for scenarios.
I love a good script. My first guest was Christina Little. I'm not sure if you guys are connected on Facebook or not. She's also a coach, and she helped me through some transitions. And whenever I could come up with a short mantra to tell myself, it really helped. So I think your scripts would be really helpful for a lot of people. Well, obviously they are, because you have really good results with it.
Yeah, it's been crazy. And I love it. Like, I love that there's a tool out there that people can use and the thing about scripts too, I love that you recognize they're so helpful because, when we get into the situations where we're emotionally uncomfortable, again, our executive function shuts down. So having the script handy, you don't have to have the executive function fully working to problem solve through it. You can just spit out the script. So I think that's one of the reasons they're so helpful.
I love that. So yes, audience, I will put the link to Mattie's website in the show notes so you can go your own copy. Do you have something that you're excited about for Cerebrations that is coming down the road?
Yes, we're in a pretty big growth spurt and it's been really exciting. But I think as a businesswoman, there's a couple things. One, as you grow your business as an entrepreneur, you want to have all the systems and have all the things. And it just doesn't work that way because you're just sometimes just keeping the ship afloat. So I actually have in 3 weeks, I have a full day planning on business systems and vision questing and, really thinking about how to start the legacy part of the business and not just the by the seat of your pants part of the business, which I'm really good at. I'm really good at the seat of your pants, but but the legacy I think is going to be really exciting. So I'm excited about taking some of the things in my head and getting them actually on planning paper with some of my team members who can really help implement those. And then the other thing I'm really excited about is Flourish Collective. And I love group coaching, especially with women. It's one of my favorite things to do, but it's actually one of my favorite things to actually do for myself as well. And so we're focusing on women 45 plus who caregive for either young adults or teenagers, as well as aging parents, because I feel like that group is lost right now in this shuffle of life and the shuffle of caregiving. And, and I'm one of those. So I have a teenager at home and I have aging parents, and my own life is like we just talked about. I'm transitioning in the process. So there's all this transition going on. And so to figure out how do we flourish through this and how do we not lose ourselves so that we can, because we have the next chapter of our lives now happening as well. So how do we do all of that and find the joy that we need for the next chapter too?
You said you have launched it, but you're going to give it more attention. Is there a certain place online where women that are listening can find more information about this program?
It's also on the website. The wait list is open. We're going to be launching in August 1. So now's a great time to get on the wait list. And because it's a newer-ish program, we'll be doing discounts for people as well.
Would you say that entrepreneurship has changed you at all?
A lot. I started managing when I was very young, and I grew up in rural areas, so that allowed me to be able to manage. And I think the reason I mentioned that is the managerial and the leadership journey, I think, was a catalyst for my own personal growth. However, entrepreneurship, I think, takes such courage, and it requires, even the days you don't have confidence, it requires you to keep moving. That I feel like that journey has really enhanced my own courage and my own confidence. So I think being an entrepreneur really changed me. It also, I think, allowed me to be a better parent because it kind of forced my brain out of this is the way life goes mode. And so it opened up the possibility for my own son around around what his adult life could look like, and what he wants to learn in his own life. And so I think that's been a really good, it's been an added value that I wasn't expecting, is to really, and to be okay with him not being perfect too. Like, just, I think that perfectionism feeds into a lot of what we do as women. And you just have to, like, the best advice I ever got as an entrepreneur was progress over perfection. And that's become my mantra in life, which I think has loosened up a lot of the issues I had as as we do as human beings.
I love that. That's one of my mottos as well. It's a good one.
It's a good
Especially for
one.
us recovering, people-pleasing, rule-following perfectionists.
Yes, I'm a recovering of all of those. So, and it's I think the entrepreneur journey, it really forces you to take a look at how those are serving you, which they're not, and change so that you become who you're really meant to be.
All right, it's time for our lightning round. Mattie, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, coffee or tea?
Tea, but I'm not very happy about it.
Oh, are you giving up coffee?
Yes. So last year it would have been definitely coffee, but now it's tea.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
One tool or app that helps you run your business?
Gemini.
Can you expand on that a little bit for people who don't know what it is?
I have learned to love Gemini AI. If you have because most of us have Gmail and most of us have Google Workspace that we work on. If you don't, I would suggest that. But Gemini feeds everything it does for the AI system, feeds through your workspace first before it goes and gets anything out of the internet. So I've been loving that.
So do you mean like it pulls from anything you've worked on and kind of gets information from that?
Yeah, anything you have on your drive, it goes and looks there first before it goes out into the internet. And the reason I love it is that it's also, they don't use your data for all the other things that we don't know what AI uses it for.
Right. Interesting. So, I'm gonna have to look into that more.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite way to unwind after a busy day?
I love to sit and read. I make dinner or whatever to just read and unwind and forget about the hard stuff for a while.
Have you read anything good lately?
This is my guilty pleasure. I am really into fantasy books.
Okay.
So I'm reading The Fourth Wing right now and I'm loving it. So
fantastic. Do you have a female entrepreneur that you would like to highlight, give a shout out to?
Annalise Warren. Her name's Annalise Warren. And Annalise is, she has been with me since almost day one of my journey with Cerebrations. So she is an entrepreneur. She's a marketing expert. She does some really great work around building women up. And she's just got a big heart. So I've had the privilege of working with her since 2021.
Nice. Does she have her own website?
She has her own website. She has her own podcast called The Podcast, where she really lifts women up to start going out of just freelancing and becoming the CEO of their own world. So
that sounds like fun. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Well, audience, remember that you can follow Mattie on Facebook, Instagram, and she didn't mention this in her bio, but you can also find her on LinkedIn. So if you want more business specific tips related to how we think and those kinds of things, you can also find her on LinkedIn. You can browse her website at mattiecummins.com. Again, it'll be spelled out in the show notes for you. And remember, she has that free gift for you with the boundary script, the download there. Before we go though, Mattie, if someone else wanted to start their own business, what is one piece of advice that you would give them?
The one piece of advice that I would give them is just start. I think that what happens with women entrepreneurs is we plan and plan and plan because that's what women do, and we never start. So I would say to take one actionable item, which may be just simply getting online and posting that you're starting your own business and what you're doing. But just start, because you can sit and plan for years, but it's the actions that actually get you there.
Back to that progress over perfection.
That is correct. Just do it.
Yes.
Just make it happen.
Well, Mattie, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time and your conversation. Audience, thank you for listening today. If you'd like to know what we discussed after the episode ended, head on over to the After the Highlight collection on Patreon. Thank you, Mattie.
Thank you, Jenny. It was lovely to hang out with you today.